We're back. We're back with Errol Cheek. We're going to talk some college football, bowl season. Errol, how about this bowl season? What do you think about it so far?
Unbelievable. Zen Master, I got to tell you, I was very skeptical about the new four-team format. I thought it was all about politics and money. But the way it turns out, I mean, it has created a huge amount of excitement in college football. I couldn't imagine it turn out better. How about you?
Well, you know, you think we had those, you know, the two teams in the past. We got the BCS ratings. We got the number 1 versus number 2. We bring it to 4 teams now. Oh, that's going to get rid of, you know, a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
No. We were talking about it the last time we had our show, and we were talking about, does Ohio State belong? Does TCU belong? Does BYU? Not BYU. Excuse me there, fans. Not BYU. Marshall. You brought up Marshall.
The last time they were undefeated, and then they went down in flames.
Right, and Baylor, and you know, I still think that this format can be expanded. But with that thrown to the side, what an exciting day the other day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the Ohio State proved us wrong.
Yes.
Proved us wrong.
I didn't think Ohio State belonged. I thought TCU belonged, but I also thought Florida State didn't belong. But I'm glad they got in after all, because if they hadn't got in, or if it had been the old 2-team format, and it had been Oregon playing Alabama, Florida State, idiotic fans would be all over the internet, and forever having the big sign up saying, we're number 1, the only true undefeated team, 2014 season. They would have proclaimed themselves the number 1 team, and it would have been that way forever. But instead, we get to see them for what they truly are. They didn't play anybody all year, and they get annihilated by a good Oregon team, 59-20. So justice is served there. I'm glad they got in, even though they didn't belong.
And you're right, they didn't belong. And when you look at their 12-game season, we see that they had to come back 9 times to win. I mean, does a real championship team have to come back 9 times to win a game?
And how many times do you have to be lucky? I mean, I understand you create your own luck, but over 9 times, you got to have a lot of luck involved.
Right, Notre Dame, for example.
Yeah. It's a bad cause.
And then the classlessness of the team at the end of the game.
Oh my goodness.
75% of the team walking off the field, not shaking hands.
But see, that shows their coach, too. He promotes all their bad behavior. You listen to his press conference, I mean, he sounds like some second-hand lawyer trying to say it's okay to do really, really bad things. Obviously bad things. Well, he comes across that way.
And we don't have to deal with them, right? We get Oregon and you know, demolish them. And when Urban Meyer was told in the press conference of, you know, did you watch the game? Did you see the score? And he said, no, what was the score? And they said, oh, they beat him by almost 40 points. He was like, oh, we better go get ready.
Yeah.
And he better go get ready.
He better go get ready. Yeah.
And that game that they had, talking about Ohio State against Alabama, what did you think about that game? I thought, personally, that it showed, surprisingly, we think of SEC teams as being so fast. It showed that Alabama was not as speedy as we tend to think of an SEC team as being.
Right, and their defensive line wasn't near as athletic as in the past because they couldn't generate a pass rush against Cardale Jones. Talk about Ohio State depth. How in the world can a third-string quarterback come in and do what he's done the past 2 days, the past 2 games? I think that Alabama would have been a much easier matchup for Oregon. I think that, you know, you look what Cardale Jones did against those defensive backs and that defensive line not pass rushing. Imagine what the slinging Hawaiian Mariota would have done. He would have gone crazy against them. He would have. The defensive line couldn't have caught up with him when he ran the option plays, and he would have gone deep against their defensive backs, he would have shredded them. I think Ohio State is a much tougher matchup for Oregon than Alabama would have been.
And, you know, when it comes to Oregon, many people, other than Mariota, don't really know the players on that team. And I think that sort of creates a chip on the shoulder of the Oregon players and drives them to the success that they're having. And then you look at this Chip Kelly type offense that they run. And the other day, you know, Florida State was totally unprepared. A month almost to prepare, 3 weeks, you know, to be exact, to prepare for this type of offense. But 12 and 16 seconds, that defense was not ready for snaps so quickly.
Yes.
And there was one time when Oregon had it in the first half at the 1 yard line, and Florida State might as well just not have been on the field.
No, they might not.
They didn't know what to do.
No.
And Oregon is going to present that same problem for any team that they play. And the speed on that team is just unbelievable.
Yes. And I think, too, is, you know, they run the hurry-up offense to such perfection, and they do all the unusual things so well, people tend to think it's all smoke and magic. When really, man, they are a tough football team, too. Just because they come out with a different funky uniform from Nike every game, you can't think of them as a foo-foo team. I mean, they can come and run it right at you and just knock you down the same way on defense. I think Florida State wasn't prepared for just how tough they would be between the tackles.
Yeah, the run game for Oregon, especially when you include Mariota.
Yes.
That's tough. You have to have somebody spying the quarterback, and you have to take account for that speed they have in the backfield, and you've got to take account for all that speed they have on the corners. That's a lot for any defense to contend with. It's going to be a really good championship.
And their defense is way underrated too. I think they're tougher and they have the speed, and I think they're just way underrated as a football team.
And so if we move on from before we move on, let's get our picks.
Okay.
All right. Oregon, Ohio State.
I think Ohio State could definitely pull the upset if they can kind of upset the tempo of Oregon a little bit, make them play a more conventional game, especially if Ohio State doesn't turn it over. And I think that Cardell Jones, I don't think he's a flash in the pan. I think he's got a gun for an arm, and holy cow, he can just run over people. He's got a lot of speed, too. He gave Buster and Florida State's line and just keep on going. No, not Florida State. Alabama's line. I didn't picture him. Yes. Cardell would just bust through, and he'd be almost surprised that he were through the line and just run more. So I think he's going to give them fits. I think if Ohio State doesn't turn the ball over, they've got a really good chance of winning. But I think Oregon will pull it out 41-38.
I'm looking at about I'm going to say 11-point victory for Oregon. I just can't see anybody stopping that offense.
No.
And like you say, their defense is vastly underrated.
Yes.
But we look at the rest of the bowl season, and, you know, we're talking about Oregon. Look at the Pac-12, 6-2. And that's after a late loss last night by Washington.
And again, you think of their league has gotten soft over the years. You know, you go back to UCA or USC used to run the power I all the time. Student body left, student body right, just run over you. And they went all pass happy, and they've got a reputation as being soft. I think Oregon's reputation kind of comes from that too. I don't think that's true anymore. I think there's a lot more parity in college football than in a long time.
Well, it's like we saw last night in the UCLA-Kansas State game. UCLA ran for 334 yards.
I guess, 16 for Kansas State?
Yeah,
and they almost got beat anyway.
Yeah.
They had an onside kick. Yeah. Did you see the kicker do the trick?
That was one of the most incredible kicks I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Didn't recover it. Could have. Really close. But what an inventive onside kick.
Yes.
Took him by surprise, except for Paul Perkins, who recovered it and
was a hero of the night all around.
But
and speaking of who got in, though, we both like TCU, but even if Ohio State hadn't been bumped, even if Florida State, one of those two had been bumped, would TCU have gotten in over Baylor, since Baylor won the head-to-head contest, each a one-loss team?
I don't know. The Baylor coach definitely at the end of the season didn't think that would be the right call, and he made it known to the public. I still personally would love to have seen Oregon play TCU. What speed
I think
on the
TCU
field.
Definitely. I think they just had a one bad game against another good team, whereas Ohio State got beat by Virginia Tech. It turns out not even to be a good team.
Right.
And speaking of Baylor too, I think they're proving that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because college football has gone to a pass West Coast offense, running game. The old Woody Hayes 3 yards and a cloud of dust is history. But you look at the championship game, Oregon and Ohio State, they can both run the ball. The quarterbacks can run the ball. They have running backs that can run the ball. They can run the ball between the tackles. So that is definitely not a part of the game that you can do without. You look at Baylor, they were up 20 against Michigan State. They still got nobody in the backfield. They got 5 receivers, and they wind up losing. They don't have a balanced attack, and I don't think you can win the big games without a balanced attack.
All right. We have not yet gotten to the Arkansas Razorbacks or some of the other bowl games. Errol and I are going to come back, and we're going to finish up this segment in just a minute, fans.